Hello, this is Titus Pressler at the General Convention of the Episcopal Church in Louisville, Kentucky of June of 2024. And I'm sitting with Sister Ellen Francis of the Order of St. Helena, one of the Episcopal monastic orders. And my question, Ellen Francis, is far-reaching, and you can take it wherever you'd like to take it. What is your mission story?
Well, it starts back in the 1960s, late 60s, early 70s. Actually, it started before that because in the 60s I was out protesting the Vietnam War. But then in the 70s, I lived for a while in Iran, and I taught English as a foreign language at a girls' school and then at a university. And then I moved on to work for the UNDP for 3 years as an administrator of development programs.
UNDP being?
United Nations Development Program, which is kind of an umbrella organization for the specialized development projects that UNESCO, ILO, World Health Organization, a lot of organizations have development projects in the two-thirds world.
Right.
I came back to the United States in the summer of 1978 when the revolution was starting to gear up, and didn't do anything with all of that until I was in the Order of St. Helena. I joined the Order of St. Helena in 2000 and started to connect with peace groups, the Episcopal Peace Fellowship, and with FOR. And in 2000, let's see, that would have been 2005 and 2006 and 2008, I went back to Iran with FOR.
FOR being?
The Fellowship of Reconciliation, and which EPF is affiliated with. And the purpose of these missions was to be peace ambassadors in Iran, to present a friendly face of Americans in Iran, and then to come back and tell the story. So to present a friendly face of Iranians in this country and to lobby against war with Iran. And then in 2007, I was invited to go on another delegation that the Mennonites organized, and it was an ecumenical trip. And I went as a translator, unofficial. I was not the official translator.
Because you are fluent in Farsi.
I know street Farsi.
Street
I
Farsi.
know colloquial Farsi.
Okay.
But I wouldn't want to do the official translation.
Sure.
But after the meeting, I could say now that, and people would hear an official translator, but I could explain what it meant. If people were misunderstanding what had happened, and I could advise people before we went into the meetings, this might be a good way to express this, and I'll need more clarification. So there were some absolutely amazing experiences that we had on these trips, because at that time, the nuclear deal had not been signed yet, or was in the process of being. I don't remember what year it was signed, but there was both a push towards building friendship with Iran and a push for military action against Iran, and fear that Iran was developing a nuclear program. So we had a very important role, I think, in presenting a friendly face of Iran to Iranian people that we met and in official meetings. And then when we came back, I talked in many, many churches and schools and all kinds of venues about Iran.
And this was in what year?
I went 4 times from 2005, 6, 7, and 2008. So I came back from one of the trips and had a presentation in a church. And someone came up to me afterwards, and she was starting to get tears in her eyes. And she said, I had no idea that Iranians were such good people. When I went back to Iran and we were meeting with an official, and he had 2 big, strong guards sitting on, sort of security people sitting on either side of him. And I told that story. that this woman had come up to me and said, I didn't know Iranians were such good people. And they were starting to get
Oh, that's a nice story.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
really
and
visible reconciliation.
reconciliation.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And I've been sort of at the edge of demonstrations and, death to America, death to America. And they'd come up to me and say, can you get me a visa to help me get a visa to the United States? So I think we also heard a lot of people say that we see a difference. We love the American people. The Iranians were saying, we love the American people, but it's your government policies that we don't like. But they said as time goes on, it's harder and harder to see a difference between the two.
Yes.
Yeah. So my ministry, now trips to Iran are no longer really
Right.
possible. And any trip like that, one has to look at the sort of the risk and the benefit. And right now, I can advocate for Iran and for peace in the Middle East. But going there right now, I would not think would not be safe.
So how has this mission outreach of yours in peacemaking, specifically with Iran, how has it deepened your spirituality, your life with God, your sense of what it is to be a Christian, what it is to be a religious person?
Well, I think a very important part of this too is the interfaith dialogue, which you and I took part in when I was living in New York, and we were on the Episcopal Muslim Relations Committee.
Yes.
And making those kinds of dialogue relationships, I think, are just absolutely what the world needs right now, because we can talk from our own faith tradition. And it's important to be really solid in what we believe and who we are, and talk to people who are also solid and fully formed, fully practicing of their own tradition. And we can talk to each other about, so what does that holiday mean for you? And what does it mean for you that you pray so many times a day? And I love telling Muslims that at the convent, we pray 5 times a day. And they say, oh, you do? Yes, we do. Yeah. And I have, since I've moved to South Carolina in 2008,
which is where the Order of St. Helena is.
St. Helena, we
currently
moved
based.
where all our sisters are now in North Augusta, South Carolina. I've been involved in forming an interfaith fellowship.
Oh,
I
wonderful.
was not one of the organizers, but one of the founding members. And we have collected maybe about 10 different religious groups in the area, including Baha'is and there's Jews and Muslims, all sorts of Christians, and what else? The Hindu, Sikh, Unitarian, Quaker, there are lots and lots of people.
Yes.
And we meet once a month and we just talk to each other about, we pick a topic. So what are the initiation rites in your tradition, and what are your prayer practices, and what, share it with each other in a way that is very respectful and very open to just hearing each other. And we did not talk politics until recently. And we've gotten to know each other. Most of the core members have known each other for years. So the current situation in Gaza happened.
Yes.
And the next time our group met, we had Jewish people there, and we had Muslims there, and myself, and was always sitting on the Muslim side of the table just because of, my background. But I really, want to love and respect everybody. So anyway, the leader of the meeting just led it beautifully, and we just were able to talk about what had happened, what was happening in Gaza, without anybody accusing anybody or anything like that. And it was really, really beautiful. But it was based on years of getting to know each other first.
Thanks be to God. And what's striking about your story is you had this experience of peacemaking and reconciliation abroad in a very contested part of the world. And then you bring that home to a community in South Carolina.
Mhm.
That's wonderful.
I've also, with one of my Muslim friends, we founded a women's interfaith group. And that has just been, I mean, just such dear people. They're just, when we couldn't meet together during COVID in person, we were still meeting online and we missed each other so much. And we're just really friends. So sometimes in, little Augusta, Georgia, in the middle of the South, or in South Carolina, I'll go out to lunch with a Muslim friend and on purpose, I'll wear my cross and she's wearing her hijab. And we're sitting there in a restaurant just having a wonderful time.
That's a
And
sign of reconciliation right there.
It's a
Yes.
witness that you
Yes.
can see. I've also gone to do programs in a parish. And the first time I did it, I think it was during Lent, we had 5 sessions once a week. And the first session, it was just me meeting with the people and saying, we're going to have these interfaith dialogues. And I know this may be uncomfortable or you may have concerns about things. So we kind of set up the situation first. And that particular parish chose to have a Muslim and a Jewish person and a Hindu. So the next week we had the Muslim dialogue. And each time, these are my friends. I mean,
Yes,
these
yes,
people.
yes.
So it's an interesting witness for me to be standing there with my Muslim friend, and we're going back and forth. And then that person did a presentation of basic Islam 101. And then the next week it was a Jewish person, and the following week a Hindu. And then the last week was just me again. And I said, okay, we've had these 3 presentations. Now I want to hear from you. What concerns do you have? What thoughts do you have? What surprised you about what happened? And I'm also remembered when the Muslim presenter came and he talked about Islam 101. And then he said, now look, any question you want to ask, believe me, I have heard it before. So don't be shy. Anything,
Right.
absolutely anything you want to ask, please ask it.
Right.
And we're probably running out of time, but I'll tell you one more story. One of my Muslim friends and I were at a program at the mosque on a Thursday evening, and she lives a ways away from the mosque. And the next day was Friday, so she was going to have to drive all the way home and go all the way back for Friday prayers. So I said, well, why don't you come stay at the convent tonight? Because we were closer
Oh,
to the
lovely.
mosque.
Yes.
So she thought that was the coolest thing. And
Yeah.
she was telling me, guess what? I'm going to get to stay at the convent. So in the morning at breakfast with my sisters, we started talking about the resurrection. And she said, so Jesus died on the cross. And we said, yes, but then he rose from the dead. Okay, so if he was alive again, then he didn't die. We said, no, he died, but then he rose again. Well, if he died, then he couldn't rise again, be alive again. We said, no, he did. We went around in circles for a while.
Well, thank you so much, Ellen Francis. It's wonderful to hear your mission story and how God has worked with you in these interreligious and peacemaking contexts for reconciliation.
And I think that's work the Episcopal Church needs to keep doing. I think the relationships with Methodists and others to have joint communion, to share communion is great, but we need to talk across difference.
Yes.
We need to talk to the Baptists, we need to talk to the evangelicals, the Orthodox, and people of other faith traditions.
Multi-directional.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you.